Hello. So I thought it'd be a cool idea to make a video talking about my time at St Anthonys Shelter. So I had a few people ask me about my time at the shelter, but I really never had time to sit down with them at lunch to talk about it. So I thought this would be kind of a cool, easy thing to do to kind of put on my YouTube channel to let people see it, and maybe we can talk about it later. This is very strange. I think this is the first time on my channel that I'm talking to the camera. All my other videos I'm not talking or not even in it. So I'm in my room in Chicago and I wanted to show you guys my view, but I have to face this way because the lighting is a lot better as opposed to this, which is not very good. But I'll still show you my view because it's pretty cool. You can see Lake Michigan. See that? Wow. Wind truss. There's a plane. A bunch of boats out there. It's a pretty cool view. But yeah, I'm in Chicago now working at this company called Infosys for like 2 or 3 months now. But yeah, so St. Anthonys Shelter. I got there August 2016, and then I left to February 2018, right after the Super Bowl. So it's called St. Anthonys Shelter for Renewal, and it's located in the Bronx, New York, and it's run by the Franciscan Friars of the Renewal. So the shelter is pretty much run by Catholic Franciscan friars with the help of a few lay missionaries like me. That's what I was. So the homeless shelter is a 6-story building, and we can house about 30 guys a night. And the 6th floor is where the missionaries stay, like I was, or the volunteer missionaries. So they stay on the 6th floor, and there's about 10 rooms per floor, and then the 5th, 4th, and 3rd floor are where the guests stay, or the guys coming in for the night. And then the 2nd floor is a chapel and a community room where we watch TV or have meetings or AA meetings or something like that. And then the 1st floor are offices and the kitchen and the dining room where we eat. So a big part of the shelter is we do a breathalyzer in the beginning when they come in at 6:30, and we check their bags, and we do drug tests randomly to make sure they're not on drugs. So yeah, the point of the shelter is to help the guys stay sober, and we help them find a job. The friars help the guys with letters to employments to help them find jobs and get back on their feet and help them find apartments throughout the city. And yeah, that's the real point of the whole shelter. And each guy has about 6 months to stay with us. And then after that 6 months, they're supposed to leave. But if they're close to getting an apartment, they can stay for over 6 months. But that's really the point of the shelter. Guys cycle in every 6 months, and we help them sober up, find a job, and get back on their feet. And yeah, that's why it's great. And another crazy thing about the shelter is it's all ran on donations. So donations from benefactors and everything, all the food, everything that makes the shelter run, it's all on donations. Nothing is government funded. We're like a private institution, so yeah, the whole shelter runs on donations. We would have morning prayer and mass every day at 7:30 in the chapel on the 2nd floor, which was great because it was always with one of the friars living at the friary next door to the shelter. And I loved it, and I always loved their homilies. I thought the friars were so smart there, and yeah, it was a great way to start the day. And then we would begin our work. The lay missionaries would begin our work at 9, and then we would do our work from 9 to 12, and then 12 to 1 would be our lunch. Usually we'd eat leftovers at the shelter, and then from 1 to 3 o'clock we would have more work, and then we would have a break from 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock, and then from 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock would be our holy hour or adoration every day. which is also another great time for like prayer or reading, and just a good way to kind of focus before, you know, the evening work. And yeah, and then start the whole process over again. Let the guys come in at 6:30. I want to tell like a little story about my struggle with doing the dishes, like the first like 2 or 3 months I got there. That I feel like is like a good lesson if you're living in community life. But like, I say community life, but it's all the same, really. No matter where you're living, like if you're married or if you're in an order or a community life, like I think it's all the same. Or if you're living with a roommate, I think all of these things like I'm about to say are it works with all of them. Okay, so I was doing the dishes, right, and I just felt like I was doing a lot. I felt sometimes some of the missionaries weren't pulling their weight when it comes to doing dishes, and it bothered me at first. And then so I talked about it with one of my brothers, and he just said something extremely confusing. And I asked him, have you had this problem when you were here? Like, what do you do? Like, what do you do if someone is not doing their dishes? And like, he just said, just do them. Just do them. I was like, what do you mean just do them? That's not fair. So that was going on in my head, like that's not fair, which is like an important word about with what else I'm going to say, like fair, it's not fair. He said, just do them. So I was confused at first. I'm like, I don't want to do them, that's not fair. It's, you know, things have to be fair. When I did just start doing them, it made me a lot happier, you know what I mean? Because the problem was sort of being solved. Was it equal to an extent? I don't know, maybe, maybe not, but the point is, it doesn't matter really, because I feel like if you are in a relationship or in a community setting or anywhere with another person, I think if you're constantly looking for things to be fair or for things to be equal, you won't be happy because it's impossible. So with my setting, with the community life, if I constantly looked for everything to be fair between the missionaries, or for everything to be equal, or we'd always do equal amount of work, like everyone does 5-6 hours of work every day, and if that doesn't happen, something's not right. But it's not true. You shouldn't look for that to be the goal. I think the goal should just be to serve this other person, to serve your fellow community people, and not look at, is everything equal, is everything fair. And yeah, this is like one of the biggest things I wanted to talk about in this video. One of like the biggest lessons I've learned at the shelter is that's what relationships are about. They're about sacrifice, but you got to make sacrifices for the people you're living with. I feel like I'm not explaining this very well, but I think people get the gist of what I'm saying. But yeah, my shirt is different because it's a new day, and yeah, I'm very cool. Just kidding, but seriously. To sum up everything that I just said, I feel like it's similar to giving someone a gift, where I feel the experience is a lot better if you give someone a gift and you don't expect anything in return. You know, like you shouldn't give someone a gift and say like, oh, they better give me something equal or a better value later or something. You know, it kind of takes away from the experience of giving someone a gift. Like it's more genuine to give someone a gift and not expect anything in return. And I think it's similar to this, where no matter where you're living, if it's community life or with a husband or a wife or wherever you're living, you should look to serve that person or people and not expect anything in return, or not keep score. That's kind of like a good analogy. Like, don't keep score of like who's doing more for the other person. And I feel this is something I learned at the shelter that definitely makes me a lot happier throughout the day and the whole experience of living there. So the other thing I wanted to talk about were the dinners. The dinners are really where the main ministry was. So the dinners would usually start at 7:05, and about 8 missionaries would eat with the 30 guys and maybe like 2 or 3 other friars, and it's just a time to like get to know the guys and just talk to whoever's sitting next to you and kind of figure out their story. And some of the stories are amazing. Like some of the guys have slept in the subway for like 2 months, and then like, you know, some people just had a job and just lost their job and they're not addicted to anything. And another thing that stuck with me was when the guys come in, we do a breathalyzer to make sure they haven't been drinking. And one of the guys said he just made it in like right before 7, and I said, hey, you made it, like it's fine, you can come in for the night. And he's like, oh, thank God, like this is my safe haven. And like after he said safe haven, I was thinking, that's really nice to hear that the place that I'm helping out at is a safe haven for someone that is struggling. One of the things I really loved about the shelter was just talking to the guys there and kind of seeing their perspective on their day-to-day life, especially if they don't have a place to stay. And one of the biggest things I've heard was that someone asked one of the guys staying there, like, what is it you want, like when you're on the street, or like, do you want money, do you want food, or like what's the biggest thing that people want? And he said, just to be treated like a human, you know, be treated that I have dignity and that I'm not inferior to you. Like people just walk by thinking that I don't exist, and that hurts more than saying something mean to them, you know. At least when you say something mean to them, you acknowledge that they exist, you know. So yeah, I really thought that was interesting. So anytime I see someone on the street or walk by, like especially in Chicago now, I like to say something to them, like, how you doing, or like, I'll pray for you, or just anything, or like, do you want some food, or, you know, they like that. I know that for sure. So I think another interesting fact is I have 2 brothers that are in the order. They're not at the homeless shelter now. One of them was at the shelter for about a year. One of them was in Honduras for 2 years, but I'll probably put like a picture up of both of them. But they both have their habits now, and they're both with the Franciscan Friars of the Renewal. And yeah, it's a great thing to have 2 brothers in the order that, you know, that I'm really close to now. I think I am pretty close with some of the friars, and like I love their lifestyle, and I love who they are, and I love their work, which is mostly work with the poor, which is, you know, great. So I think that's all I have to say for now. I'd like to make another video talking about like my other experiences, and like maybe like a testimony or something I think could be beneficial for other people, or people kind of discerning if they want to go to the shelter, or discerning something else in general. I don't know. But yeah, I like hearing people talk on YouTube, so I thought like this experience I've had at the shelter might be interesting for some people to hear. But yeah, I like hearing it, and I like, you know, if you have any questions for me, you know, just contact me however, and, you know, I'll answer your questions. Thanks.